I love me a good shooter, and on Microsoft's Red Ring of Death Machine, boy did they ever have a few good ones. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I look at shmups on the Xbox 360. On today's list, I really only care if you could fly around, dodge, and blow stuff up, so let's get into it.
Second Opinion Games.
First up, we have Zero Day Attack on Earth. This game was made by Square. You know those RPG guys that really love Final Fantasy, but they never seem to ever end it? Well, here we have a twin-stick shooter. Not really a shmup, so I'm kind of stretching this one, but I thought that this was worth talking about. You could pick from a couple different ships that all act exactly the same, and you can power them up and then blow up aliens that are attacking Earth. Every 7 days or so, there's a giant alien that you have to take down in a puzzle boss battle, and you can even do so with your friends. Matter of fact, that's what the whole game's about. Joining together online to play with your friends to take out the alien horde. But the aliens just keep on coming, and the game really doesn't feel deep at all. It's just about mindlessly blowing stuff up with your friends, and in that case, it does a great job. Ion Assault is another twin-stick shooter. This one is sort of like Asteroids mixed in with Geometry Wars, only the graphics are a lot better. You still have a small playing field that you have to run around and try to avoid aliens that are going to continuously shoot at you. There's still some power-ups that do things to your ship, and there are enemies everywhere that are out to kill you. The level's over when you destroy all of the asteroids. Now, you're not going to shoot non-stop in this game, more like carefully selecting your targets and then firing for the most great effects. And the effects are awesome when everything blows up. As you absorb the particles around the screen, your shots become more explosive. So trying to create combos is a lot of fun. And this game is also really hard because of how long it takes to get a powerful shot charged, which means the aliens are going to be shooting at you non-stop. And it's a one-hit kill kind of game. So you have to carefully plan every move. This also means that it's addictively fun and will have you playing for quite some time. If you never played this game before, definitely give it a shot because it's one of the best of its kind, including over Geometry Wars. Now, Ryden IV is definitely more what people think when they think shmup. Matter of fact, this is what's called a bullet hell shooter, because bullets will cover almost every inch of the screen if playing on higher difficulty levels. However, you can customize to fit your needs. This is on the easiest setting here because I like to actually clear some levels, and I'm not really good at this style of gameplay. The graphics look arcade perfect, but the screen size is really small. Most of the screen is being taken up by stuff that isn't the action that's going on, and that's kind of frustrating. Now, your Ryden ship has a couple different weapons at its disposal. You have heat-seeking missiles or straightforward missiles. You also have the Vulcan cannon that is awesome at tearing things apart with a cool spread shot, or you have a laser that can do a ridiculous amount of damage but only fire straight forward. But also here is the electricity shot, which is the purple power-up. Now, this feels like I'm swinging around a big old donger, just blowing things up left and right, and it is extremely satisfying, and most of the time tends to be my weapon of choice when playing this game. But I do like those Vulcan cannons. The laser I kind of throw off to the side because why would I need it? I have this big old donger that I'm swinging. But that's not the only trick that this game has up its sleeve. For the low price of a $1 DLC character, we have this little fairy here, and it's hard to tell exactly what it is. It seems to have a flat chest, no boobs. It's kind of sexualized in the picture, but how does it play? Well, it plays pretty good. However, it doesn't have that big donger to swing around. Instead, it has bubbles, and it feels absolutely awful. The laser power-up also doesn't feel very good at all. However, its regular shot is pretty strong, and it spreads out just a little bit. However, the bomb that the thing drops just isn't super good at all. See, normally in the Ryden video game, when you drop your bomb, it just destroys all the bullets on the screen at once. Not so when you're playing as this fairy character, so you're gonna get hit quite a bit more. Also, the ferry moves a little bit faster than the regular ride and ship, so is it worth $1? Yeah, it's just $1, and you get a whole nother character, so might as well bite the bullet. Autonomous Excellent is a horizontal shooter this time, and it's really subtle in its sexualization against women here, as well as right on the main menu screen, you can see that the girl's riding a rocket. Boy, that didn't just set the stage. And then you go into the character select screen, where all the girls have really big breasts, and some of them look a little bit like Mickey Mouse. Now, it really doesn't matter that much which character you pick, except for the fact that it does, because some have options that follow them around and some do not. And when you blow up, you can always pick back up the options very quickly, when the ones that don't, you're just gonna struggle to even do anything. Also, this game has a leveling up XP system. Some shots can be unlocked the more you play the game, and then you could just attach them to at the very beginning. So you have to start fresh every single time. Also, most of the bosses your very first couple times around, you don't seem to beat them. They just get bored with you and leave. And that doesn't feel very satisfying at all. Of course, this game in general doesn't feel satisfying unless you put a crap ton of hours into it. Luckily, the gameplay is extremely addictive, and those girls, they're just always there for some jiggling. Also, when boss battles do start coming up, I like how they took the extra effort instead of just a still frame to show a little bit of animation on screen. It's those little touches that really push it over the edge for me. Also, if you like the Gradius series, that's essentially all this game is, but with a lot more boobs. Moving on to Caledrus? I don't know how to say the name here. In this bullet hell shooter, you could choose from 3 different characters. You have a slutty looking redhead, a total douchebag, or a sexy nun. I think pretty much all of us are going to choose the sexy nun every time. Now, when you jump into the game, you can actually see a lot more of the screen than on the Ryden game, which is something that I really like. The graphics are arcade perfect if this game was stripped right from the arcade, which I have no idea if it does. But where the game really shines is the weaponry. Each of the characters, when you pick them, have 3 different weapons at their disposal, as well as a screen-clearing bomb that can just blow everything up. But mostly I use it to take all of the stinking bullets off the screen so I don't get hit nearly as often. All of them also have a shield. The other weapons could be up to individual characters, whether it's more big swinging dongs that just jump out, or some other option that just kills stuff really fast. Now, sometimes you're going to have to fly through tight spaces, so you're going to have to watch out for that, but most of the time, you're just mowing down everything as fast as you can. There's also a story here if you really care about that, but when it comes to these bullet hell shooters, I find the story most of the time is pretty nonsensical, and I just jump right past it. Now, the art style here is really cool. As a matter of fact, the art changes along the side whether or not you get hit or not. Every time you get hit, some of your girl's clothes will sort of tear off of her. That is a whole new level of sexual exploitation I just was not ready for, but I'm kinda glad they did. This is a darn good shmup, and if you never played it before, you could just download it for like $20. Unlike Ryden, that costs like $100 online right now. Death Smiles is probably the best known shooter for the Xbox 360, and it does have over-sexualized girls that are way too young. They start at 11 years old. Japan, you never cease to amaze me how wrong you can make me feel playing a video game. Heck, the oldest one here that uses a whip and dresses, well, let's just say trashy, is 17. That might be alright for England and Alabama, but not so much here in the rest of the states. So when I jump into the game, I was not expecting to see a just crazy shooter like this. And you could face forward or backward depending on which button you press. There's also tons of different modes here. You can play the original arcade mode, which looks really bad. So I recommend sticking with the Xbox 360 mode. Also is the total customization that have you push through the entire game with ease or make it unbelievably difficult. And there's even more customization once you jump into the game itself. because you could choose from 1, 2, or 3 levels of difficulty inside of the game's levels. Now, this is the difference between the higher level or the lower level. See, sometimes the bosses will have a lot more forms and different patterns when you pick the higher level, and there's also shots all over the screen at once. If you pick the easier level, well, you're just gonna breeze through this game in pretty much no time, but it's still gonna be an incredibly fun time. There's screen-killing bombs here, and there's also these things that you tend to pick up rather quickly. Most of them look like skulls or crowns, and then you could use them for a super hyper attack that just levels everything extremely fast. Now, the game cruises along pretty darn quick until you come down to the final level, where then it just throws everything at you, even the kitchen sink, as all these Halloween spooky themed monsters just try to tear you apart. And it even has a little bit of a twist ending, and then multiple endings on top of that, depending on how well you did play in the game, and if you went to the choice levels throughout. And then if you go into the arranged version, there's a 5th playable character. Now, you even fight her as you play through the regular game, so I was kind of curious what was going to happen when I played through that same level, and she just sort of breaks into 2 spiritual clone things. It was kind of weird, but it was pretty satisfying to see. And then she died unbelievably fast because I feel like I'm awesome at this game, or I was just playing on easy. And Death Smile's soundtrack really rocks too, so much so that it actually comes with an extra CD with all of the game's music right in the case, because they knew that you wanted to be jamming out to this non-stop. Between the super fast gameplay and the unbelievably rocking music, tons of different playable characters that you could customize how you want to play through the game, and blow stuff up with Halloween-themed enemies, this has to be one of the most perfect shooters of all times. But the storyline is kind of lame, which I'm not really here for the story anyway, except for our last game. Star Trek Legacy. I know, this is far from a shmup. This is more like a spaceship third-person shooter slash simulator, because you have to control pretty much a fleet of starships, and it takes place with the Scott Bakula captain, and he just screws things up pretty bad from the start of the game as he blindly listens to this alien and saves her, and then sets up a chain of events that will pretty much destroy the universe if it's not up to you to set things right. Now, the game itself is pretty complicated and really slow to start things off. Matter of fact, a single level here can be longer than any of the previous games from start to finish that I talked about on this list. But when you really get into it and get into the great story and the deep gameplay, you're gonna find yourself playing one of the coolest shooters that were ever made, even if it's more like a simulator. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching.
Romulan vessel destroyed. Moving into attack position. Enemy vessel detected. There is no escape for you.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it. I love shooters, and even though some of them don't really qualify as shmups, I felt that they needed to be talked about. Ion Assault is an unbelievably good downloadable game. Ryden is getting really expensive. Luckily you could download it for like 20 bucks. Star Trek Legacy is really easy to find and cheap, and Death Smiles pretty much deserves to be in everyone's collection. So what shooters did I miss out there for the Xbox 360? I'm not going to start importing Japanese games for the system, because then I'm going to have to buy a Japanese Xbox 360, and let's face it, they red ring and die all the time, and I just don't want that headache. So if you have a great game you want me to play for the 360, or a great shooter for the 360, let me know in the comments down below, and until later, I will see you again, guys.